Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about the Bears. It's off-season time. You might have noticed I didn't do a recap of the last game because why would I? We're moving on. It's January. It's the January blues, man. End of the season. For us educators, even people with kids, it's towards the end of the holiday break and gotta go back to work. It's just, it's cold, it's freezing. But anyway, despite me being very clear that I'm not engaging in head coach talk, not to the extent people would probably expect, people still continue to ask me questions about the head coach or the next head coach. And so today you're going to be disappointed because I'm not about to dive into it. Honestly, I'm a touch on it towards the end, but what I'm much more interested in talking about is I want to talk about what a head coach is. Like, what is that position? What do they do? Because I'm going to be at some point soon doing a little bit of a recap of the NFL season. And I'm going to say the same thing on there that I'm going to say right now. One of the big things that I took away from this season, as a NFL season, not a Bears season, is that people don't know what they're talking about. Like 75% of the analysts, 99% of the fans, and I know a lot of people don't, obviously, people's algorithm and stuff usually pertains to just their team. So a lot of people don't swim in other team circles, but I do enough. And more so this year, to the point where I understand the fans are the fans. People always, oh, these fans are this and these fans are that. No, y'all all the same. We all the same. Everybody says the same stuff. They think the same stuff. And the conversations are darn near identical. If I was to lay you out conversations online about Justin Fields when he was with the Bears, about Desmond Ridder last year with the Falcons, and about I wouldn't say Jaden Daniels, that wouldn't be pretty obvious. Maybe even Bo Nix, you probably would not even be able to tell which one is which. Like, people say the exact same stuff in every fan base because they don't know what they're talking about. And people just flip-flop all the time. Now, look, with the sports media, I've grown to understand, look, they talk every single day. No one's holding them accountable, so they say whatever. But these fans, just as bad, worse. Flip-flopping all the time. And as I said multiple times this year, and you might be like, I'm tired of hearing this. I'm tired of saying it. People, it's just nothing but narratives. That's what I've just realized. It's nothing but narratives. It's pure confirmation bias gone wild all the time. People are going to make up their mind, or they're going to approach information based on what they already decided in their head. A great example that just happens to be a Bears example is Nick Wright and his crap with Caleb Williams. I said from the very beginning, I absolutely hate that Nick Wright has attached himself to the quarterback that's going to be our quarterback. And I don't hate Nick Wright. I started out, I really didn't like him, but I think he's actually top tier, but he is obnoxious. And so, as an example, obviously Caleb didn't do as well this year as he pushed it up. And obviously Jaden Daniels was way better. And so they took shots at him every, show throughout the season. And so even now when they're having conversations though, how much fault is this Caleb Williams? Do I have any confidence that Nick Wright is going to approach that conversation with any level of objectivity? If you've already said Caleb is one of the best QBs in the league and he's not even drafted yet, you said he could go to the Super, you said all this stuff, and it doesn't even have to be that big. You might just be a fan, a Bears fan is like, I like Caleb. If you've already taken that stance, how do you think you're going to approach that conversation? It's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. You're not going to realistically criticize Caleb. And that is just a example, a microcosm of how football conversations have turned into. It's nothing but who do we like for whatever reason, whether it's the resume, whether they got public support by everybody else, whether I just like the person. You're going to approach any situation by giving them the benefit of the doubt, blaming everybody else. That's how it goes. Even when the proof is opposite, it shows you it's opposite. Fire Waldron, oh my God. Offense was still bad. Fire Eberflus, oh my God. Team worse. Fire Saleh, wow, worse. It's just like, and I'm not saying again that those people are blameless, but as I've said many times before, trying to blame everything on one person is 99% of the time not the answer. And then again, this idea of, hey, this is how I approach football. This is what I think. This is my thought process. This is my mindset. And it just changes depending on the situation. People just flip-flop all the time. All the time. More than thong sandals in Florida. It's just flip-flop city. And so that's why, because I always challenge people when people want to, this is my thing. I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but what I will say is that I'm very 10 toes down on my thought process and how I look at football. I don't know many other people that could say that, because it's always, oh, well, you got to have the offensive coordinator. Look at Sean McVay. Of course, that's the poster child. Well, look at the Packers. Look at Matt LaFleur. Okay, well, also look at the Colts. Oh, well, no, I'm not going to. No. Sean McVay disciples. Look at Waldron. Oh, well, no. Well, not him. No, you don't get to pick and choose. You are just picking examples when it's clear that what you're saying is the actual solution or the truth is not true. And if it was a truth, then everybody would be doing it. And that's not even a football thing. That's just life. Everyone acts like that. If there was one answer, then everybody would be doing it. So that's what really gets me annoyed, when people want to approach these conversations as if they got the answer. This is the answer. It's clear this is the answer. No, it's not, because it's not that simple. And no matter what it is, it's just crazy to me, man. It is so frustrating this year to see how just dumb the conversations have become. You got Dave Canellis, young, and not my words. This is mainly Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, old guys like that. Oh, he's young, he's good looking, he's fit, he's attractive. Okay. Offensive minded for the quarterback, for our young quarterback benched. What do they say? Well, this guy Bryce sucked last year, so he's sucking again. It's Bryce's fault. He's a bust. This guy worked with Baker, so it's obviously not his fault. Okay, team still look bad. Well, okay, maybe it is this guy's fault. Bryce comes back, plays well. Oh, Dave Canellis. Whoa, that guy's good. Wait, what was he good earlier? When I don't understand. Who am I thinking of? CJ Stroud. I talk about this so many times. This CJ Stroud is actually the perfect example. I meant to bring this up weeks ago. He is the perfect example of modern sports discourse, or modern football discourse at least. So CJ Stroud, unanimously by everybody, great rookie season, amazing. O-line was great. I didn't hear not one person say this. I'm sure maybe locally, but no one nationally that I heard point out how well the O-line was doing. I'm the only one that said that. And that was when Tunsil was even out. Great job. Okay. Was there any talk of, man, this O-line is doing a great job coming together? Is there talk about this O-line coach doing a good job? No. All there was talk of CJ Stroud. Who's this? Who's the OC? We don't know this guy. CJ Stroud's doing well, so this OC must be a head coach now. What? Okay, so now it's definitive. It's an objective fact that CJ Stroud is a lead and he's top 5 and he's this and he's that. This year, what happened? Well, it must be the O-line. They must suck. Wait, so the O-line wasn't good last year when he was putting up numbers. But they suck now. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking and why I hate it. But anyway, I will talk about the Bears. Well, not really, kind of tangentially, but moving past all that. The head coach thing. I've said this before as well. I despise to my core that this narrative that the head coach position has turned into the quarterback coach position. Not only just football sense, but just pure logical sense. It is so stupid. Like, listen to yourselves. The head coach, you're hiring a head coach to work with your quarterback. I need somebody to make that make sense to me. You saw Andy Reid and the Chiefs win. First of all, did you not see Andy Reid get fired from Philly? Why did he get fired from Philly? Anybody remember? Because they couldn't make it through the playoffs. They got to the Super Bowl that one time and lost. And they said, you can't get over the hump. I mean, okay, that's like right there, the answer, but we'll continue. He goes to Kansas City. What was he doing in Kansas City in the playoffs, in the championship games, or in the realm of winning championships? Exactly. So then they get Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes, through a combination of sitting, developing, working well with Andy Reid, they're able to win. We see that. Sean McVay, they did go to Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but he said, hey, I need more talent. They got Stafford, who had more talent, and they were able to win the Super Bowl and still be effective, even though the rest of the team isn't as great. But Stafford and the offense has still been pretty effective. Okay, so are we going to sit here and say, Andy Reid, who was around for how long, background and different things, all these different things that he's done, we're going to reduce his accomplishment and the Chiefs' accomplishment to, he worked well as a quarterback coach with Patrick Mahomes. Really? That man didn't play quarterback. Like, what are we talking about? Sean McVay, we're going to reduce it down to, he fixed Stafford. He didn't fix Stafford. What are you talking about? And that's all we do is reduce this head coaching position down to being a quarterback coach. And I, for the life of me, don't understand it. As I said before, so we asked, what is a head coach? First of all, another thing, and I know how many people disagree, but I don't care. It's how I feel, and that's how I'll probably continue to feel. If you can't even tell me what are the attributes of a position, that means you're not able to tell me how to correctly evaluate a position. You don't even know what to look at. So if you can't evaluate it, how do you then get to turn around and tell me who's not performing well? And that's always the conversation. It always boils down to results based. Oh, I saw we didn't win a lot of games, so I know he's not good. Well, by that logic, Sam Darnold would not be doing what he's doing. Baker Mayfield would not be doing what he's doing. Geno Smith would not been able to do what he did that far into his career. Andy Reid would not been able to get fired and then go on to win Super Bowls. Like, what are we talking about? Like, as I've said many times, players are not good or bad in a vacuum. Coaches are not good or bad in a vacuum. It is the ultimate team sport for a reason. So if you feel like I know what I'm talking about because I saw we lost games or we won games, so I know that guy's good. What do I always say? You have no ability to predict the future. And that's why we always see everybody flip-flopping because they don't know what they talking about. So anyway, head coach. What is it the head coach does? What does it mean to be a head coach? What it doesn't mean is to be a good coordinator. And everyone wants to fall into that trap. Well, if you're a good coordinator, that must mean you got to move up to be a head coach. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. But that is, unfortunately, the American way of thinking, is that you do good at this position, you got to move up to management. And everybody's not built to be a manager. Not everybody's built to be a head coach. As I've said before, people, and for whatever reason, it really has become a much bigger conversation, but the time management and the clock. I'm not saying it's important, or I'm not saying it's not important, but at the same time, I will say it's being overblown nowadays, and I'm not sure why. But either way, that's what everybody wants to go to first. That's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing for a head coach is, I would say, practice, being able to organize a practice, but that's more of the operation. I would say bigger than the operation is the philosophical and the structural system. As we hear the, fun discussion of Bill Belichick going in with a 400-page organizational Bible to the UNC, and people laugh and say, oh, so Bill Belichick. Not really. I mean, again, if you never coached, then I don't know how you would know this. Like, if you don't know coaches, you have to stay ready with that. So what does the interview look like? Guess what the interview's not? The interview's not, hey, here's the down and distance in the clock, and here's this, tell me what you would do. That's not what the interview is. The interview is not, hey, tell me what you're going to say to my quarterback to make him feel good. Like, no. The interview is, what are your ideas philosophically for our structure? How do you envision running this organization structurally? What's the reporting chains? What's the hierarchy? What's the org chart? How do you envision working with the GM? How do you envision working with the president, the owner? How do you want the scouting department set up? What are you looking for out of the scouting department, the pro personnel department, the college scouting department? What are you looking for out of the GM? What do you expect out of the GM? What's your reporting structure for your coaching staff? What's your system for if this happens with two coaches that don't get along? What's your plans for that? What are your thoughts on how you're going to handle practice disruptions? What are your thoughts about how you want to handle player discipline? What things are hard nosed? How would you handle this situation with play? That is what a head coach is doing. the head coach should be in winning situations. The head coach has the autonomy and power to set that structure. And so when you get guys that are into organizational theory, that are into sports psychology, guys that really think about these things, those are head coaches. You can know football and not be a good head coach. You can coordinate a side of the ball and not be a good head coach, because a head coach is bigger than just football. Like, everybody wants to equate football to like a one classroom structure teacher, traditional style. And while at its core, football is teaching, the sitting in the classroom one-on-one style, trying to transfer information, that is more prevalent to an assistant coach, a position coach, the O-line coach teaching, hey, come outside. What am I going to do to help communicate this information to you mentally and physically so that you can perform what I want you to perform? Okay, I'm going to take these bags, these sled, this drill, this is the drill we're going to run. This is what it's simulating. This is why I want you to know it. This is where your hand goes. This is where your foot go. That is more prevalent to a position coach. Do all head coaches do it? Yes, I'm sure they do. But that is a small part of their job. For the running back coach, huge part of your job. For the head coach, smaller part. Your run game coordinator, you are now more focused on getting the game plan together. You're the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator. You are now not only concerned about getting the game plan together, but how to delegate tasks to your other coaches so that they are teaching everybody on your unit what the game plan is. What do you expect for this week? And the head coach is overseeing all of that. That's why I said operationally, the first question that's most important, how do you structure practice? What are your ideas for practice? Because look, we got bets, we got fantasy football, we got all those things. People have played the game and it's like, hey, you just go out and ball. No, that's not what it is. Football is more than just, hey, we're going out there to just play. No, think about it like you think about work. Think about it like you think about people making movies, entertainment, whatever it is that you do. You approach life. Here's the task we got to complete. How do we get to that point? What is our structure for achieving and accomplishing these goals? As they always say, the CEO, like, essentially, I mean, you should be, to be honest. Don't get me started about owners, but and I will say this because I was thinking it earlier. I guarantee you, if you remove the owners from the team, like they were not able to do anything, and these teams were being ran by coaches, the product would be much better. The product would be much better because the power dynamics of the owners who don't know football come in and they do stupid stuff. Ideally, like you see in college, the coach should be the CEO. The head coach should be able to run the program, the expectations, the rules, the schedule, the systems, the timelines, everything. And so obviously, if you're a coordinator, you've been exposed to what your head coach done and whoever you've been under. So it's not like you've never seen it. And some people get more, prep than others. It just depends on your relationship with what you got. But even if you were getting little taste of it, even if you were assistant head coach, being the head coach is just different. And people wonder why. And again, I want to give some real kudos because you got owners saying, we're not going to take, you got a couple owners that's like, I'm sick of doing this, man. I'm sick of this microwave thought process. Yeah, it might suck. It might be bumpy, but I'm going to stick to it. The Lions could have easily jumped ship on Dan Kemp. First of all, not even Dan Kemp, because, I mean, yes, but before him, Aaron Glenn. I don't understand, because as y'all know, I've been doing my little stat project the last, 2-3 years? So I can definitively tell you the Lions defense was not good. And so now you get to this year where they rank actually pretty high, but we all know that defense isn't great because of the injuries. And it's just like Aaron Glenn should be a head coach based on what? And so you got a team that has success, sure, but his unit wasn't even great. And he should be a head coach based on what? And then, of course, we know Ben Johnson should be a head coach just because he had a good offense. But my point is, Lions could have jumped ship right away. And they said, we're going to stick out the rough times and look at what you get to. And I ain't saying it's always going to happen that way. But if you rip in the cord immediately every time, what is it that you're building? So kudos to those owners. And I did not expect it to be like that. I expected everybody to get fired. And there are some firings, but there's some people keeping jobs that I was a little shocked by. Shout out to owners for that. Shout out to some of the media personalities. We're not going to take it. I personally think, even though I, don't enjoy most sports media, we know Shannon Sharp left Fox and Skip crashed out and all that. But even without that, I think ESPN has been getting better. I still don't mess with Stephen A like that for real. But I think that everybody around them is getting... Orlovsky annoys me. I'm not going to lie to you. He super annoys me. It's getting worse and worse. But outside of that, Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark, Foxworth, Swagoo, Woody, and to some extent, Greeny. Greeny's more of a company guy. But you getting guys, Rex, that they say the quiet parts out loud a little bit. Like, I'm not an NBA guy. I'm not a whatever the Shaq and Chuck show is that everybody goes crazy over, but they say they go crazy because Charles Barkley keeps it real. Okay, I guess. But I do enjoy that more and more you are getting these people just saying it is what it is. Like I heard Mina Kimes today, when I was watching some segment and they were talking about the head coaches, and she was just like, the truth is we don't know. We have no idea who's going to work. Exactly. And everybody's just like, yeah. And it's just like, you get all these people that are trying to make their way on TV, so they play along with the game. And it's refreshing for more of them to be like, we know we don't know what we're talking about in certain instances. And so that's honestly the truth. Because you're taking somebody, and I won't say it's like apples and oranges and everything, but you are essentially taking somebody to do a different job. You are essentially taking somebody who is a really good cook or really good on the grill at McDonald's and saying, hey, come be the executive chef of my sit down restaurant. That's a different job. Probably a better analogy would be somebody who was really good on the grill becoming the store manager. That's probably better. But that is, you're asking somebody to do something that they've been around, but it's a completely different job. And I just don't think many fans think about this stuff. And so when you ask me about the head coach and this and that, because I already told you what's going to happen. You go back to the episode, I already laid it out. I could tell you what's going to happen, even though I'm saying it right now. Whoever gets hired, gets hired. Like I said, people going to speculate. That's exactly what we're doing now. Whoever gets hired, gets hired. And all people going to do is, well, his record was this, or he coached with this, or he coached this player, or he ranked this, and that's all people got to go off of. You know why? Because you're not in the room. You're not at the interviews. You don't know how they approach being a coach. I'm trying to think. Maybe I've never been around an NFL head coach while they were NFL head coach. I've been around some coaches who went on to be NFL head coaches, but obviously they weren't talking about being a head coach at that time. Now, I've been around plenty of high school head coaches from prominent programs. I've been around plenty of smaller college head coaches, a few big name college head coaches. Brian Kelly, probably the most, because we were there for like 3 days. But I've never been around an NFL head coach. And so I can't specifically tell you like what all goes into that thought process, but I know the game and I know what has to be done. But either way, I'm not in the room with them. I don't know their philosophy. And even if I did, I'm not there until they get out and get a practice. Like I said with Getty, I said this with Getty. I've said this with every quarter. Well, what do you think of his offense? We have, first of all, they're not going to tell us, because that's one of the advantages, is having the element of surprise. And then B, whatever they show in the preseason and practice is not what they're going to be doing in the game. So I always say, I'm going to have to wait till we see it. And I'm going to tell you the same thing for whoever the next person is. It is what it is. People got to get comfortable with understanding there's a lot that you just don't know. But what I do know is what is important about a head coach. And a lot of people might go to personality. They go to Dan Campbell. Oh, yeah, big guy, just really fills up a room. Rex Ryan. And yes, you have to lead men and you have to be the voice, which is why the Cowboys probably will never do nothing, because their owner won't let them. And again, as I said before, people always talking about firing the McCaskies and all that. Nowhere near the worst owners. But anyway, you have to be the voice, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a certain personality. And it goes back to what I just said earlier. If there was one answer, everyone would do it. Yeah, Dan Campbell, he looks like a guy's guy. He looks like a player. He's a kind of a meathead. He's the tone setter. Bill Belichick, anybody? I was trying to remember the name and it just came to me. Greg Schiano. Matter of fact, wasn't he a head coach in the NFL? Anyway, I met Greg Schiano when he was at Rutgers, and he's kind of near the Belichick tree as well. Greg Schiano, and you might have heard the name, players have mentioned him, might have been the most 20 out of 10 coach that I've ever met. Just like his face was always red, just yelling, just all that. What did that amount to? The guy with 8 rings, Super Bowl rings, heard of him, Bill Belichick? Does he come in the room the same way as Dan Campbell? No. So people try to attach personality to it, charisma, engagement. The media loves to do that. That's old school European thinking. That doesn't win you games. That doesn't make you a good coach. So at the end of the day, again, when you're talking about a good head coach, what makes the head coach good? You have to have a vision. You have to have a vision for the whole thing. And it's funny because I'm doing a search now for a high level leadership position. I spent all day interviewing, and it's the same thing. The more I live life, it's the same things everywhere you go. You gotta have, it's no different than in the workplace, in the office, or a company or whatever. You gotta have somebody that has a vision for synergy. Meaning football's a little easier, but still they have to understand all the parts of the organization. What are all the aspects of this that go into making this team? Okay, what is my vision for how each of those pieces work together. And you might be thinking like, oh, that's so simple. Like, oh, what do you expect out of the scouting department? I can guarantee you there's actually a lot of coaches that don't think about that, or don't know, or don't even care. And so when you got a good coach, it's somebody that understands the system of how the team should work. And they're able to not only understand it themselves, but they're able to articulate and communicate it into a way where it can get passed on to other people who then continue to spread the word. So for anybody that has a business background, MBA stuff, a lot of this is leadership management theory. And that's why it gets quoted a lot. A lot of coaches I know have a lot of those same books I had when I was in undergrad as a business major, because my minor was leadership studies. And so I see a lot of that same stuff you see in some of these corporate worlds, because that's essentially what it is. It's organizational theory, is work psychology. And so you have to have somebody that can, again, that has a vision, can articulate the vision clearly, and then has, what's a good word? I'm going to just say the fortitude to stay consistent, because players hate that when you make it inconsistent. Obviously, you know, higher paid players, but that's the difficulty of the NFL. You don't really got that in college. Well, now you do with the portal, but back then you didn't have that in college. Yeah, it was whatever the coach says goes. But in the NFL, guys got more money, agents, of course, owners come in and say, hey, treat this guy right or you're going to get fired. So it's a lot harder to navigate. And that's part of, honestly, why a lot of people want a Bill Belichick. They want a Pete Carroll. They want a Mike McCarthy, because they already have built-in credibility. Because just psychologically, power dynamics, if I'm an owner and I got a new coach doing something I don't like, pushing against me, naturally it's like, well, I can't let him do that, because why does he get to do that to me? I'm the owner. And of course, everybody in the Falcons, they didn't want Bill Belichick, because they were worried about their jobs, because he's going to bring in his own homies and he's going to want to control everything. But the owner, on the opposite, wants that type of power player. Most owners, not Jerry Jones, they want that type of power player where they can say, okay, they like, hey, how come you let Bill do this? Hey, that's Bill Belichick. What am I supposed to do? It gives them an easy out. Like they were saying last year, people didn't want Vrabel because he was too intimidating. He's physically imposing. He's a big personality. So there's owners that's like, hey, I want to be the alpha. Team goes out, sucks. Now guess what? Everybody wants Mike Vrabel. And speaking of flip-flopping, same thing. Mike Vrabel couldn't get a job last year. Now all of a sudden, everybody wants Mike Vrabel. Just because he didn't win, or just because he didn't play, I should say, or coach. It's almost better to do nothing than to go out and lose in this TikTok attention span NFL, because it's like, hey, this guy sucks. He lost. This guy's way better. He literally didn't do nothing this year. Oh, that's better than losing. What? So anyway, I could get into more of the nitty gritty, but I talked a lot. So yes, that's what a head coach is about, man. Those are the things we're thinking about as a head coach, or people, what we're thinking about when we're looking at a head coach. We're not thinking like, oh, okay, you had a good offense. Like, bro, people got to realize that's not it. So anyway, I wasn't going to talk about it. I could have yesterday, but then it became a big thing. Mike McCarthy. For those that are real OG and stuck around to the end, you're going to get some actual head coach talk. Why does this list Bill Belichick? Okay, anyway. So Mike McCarthy, the Bears requested permission to talk with him. Mike McCarthy's contract expires next week, I believe. And so it's not like it's not Dan Campbell. It's not like, hey Lions, can we talk to Dan Campbell? It's not like that. And obviously they not in the playoffs, so they not doing nothing anyway. So on the surface, it's a little weird. Current head coach, but he's pretty much almost done. They haven't had any extensions. And so that just raised some eyebrows. I think not only because he's a coach right now, but because he's Mike McCarthy and everybody thinks he's trash. Now this year, Jerry Jones almost single-handedly, actually, no, I won't say, because Michael Parsons was part of it too. But Jerry Jones really took all the fire off of Mike McCarthy. And so now it seems like people are like, actually Mike McCarthy's pretty good. Now, people was trying to fire him when he got hired in Dallas. Oh, he lied about this. And, he fired Kellen Moore. Oh, he won all these games, but he can't coach. They tried to do everything to get this man out. Now, all of a sudden, he's the hot name. So that whole thing with Dallas is interesting. Jerry Jones made interesting comments. And so, yes. But as far as us and the Bears looking at Mike, I don't know, because we have a real long list, and I'm probably touch on everybody. But when you look at the group that we're bringing in, it is not super weird Mike McCarthy, simply because there's a lot of former head coaches on here. And again, we won't talk about flip-flopping. Most teams will try to go oppo when they fire a coach. Oh, we had a young coach, we need an old coach. That was the problem. Oh, we had a defense coach, we need an offense coach. That was the problem. Oh, we had offense, we gotta go defense. So on and so forth. So Eberflus being a first-time head coach, and Matt Nagy was too as well. So we did do that 2 times in a row. They might be, well, I wouldn't say might. It's very clear they're feeling like, hey, we want to look at a guy with some experience. Now, I thought, much like I said with the Oppo, that was, and they did look at more veteran guys last time too. So it was a little surprising that they went with Eberflus, but they were looking at veteran guys, and they're seeming to do that again. I don't think that's out of the ordinary to value that type of experience, especially with what the Bears have went through with the last few coaches. So you get this list of people who, like I said, have that experience. So Mike McCarthy, in that sense, not surprising. And again, I don't know a ton about these coaches. Well, I don't like having these conversations. But I will say on the surface, doesn't seem like a great fit to me. Now, Mike McCarthy was in a completely opposite situation in Green Bay, because if you don't know, I'm sure everybody does know, Green Bay does not have an owner. Not a single principal owner. And so to go from that to the Cowboys with an overbearing owner where he really has, no autonomy to really run the system the way or the program he wants. Some people are saying, like, we don't truly know what he can do. Now, we know he won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. We know he had Aaron Rodgers and all that. And it's a weird thing with Mike McCarthy where people go back and forth. Because they're like, he doesn't know coach, offense is archaic. But then they turn around and be like, oh, they just put up numbers, but they don't win. But then they like, win, but don't win in the playoffs. Oh, he doesn't run the ball enough. But y'all said his offense was archaic and he don't know how to pass the ball. But yet CD puts up crazy numbers. So people go back and forth. And at the end of the day, actually, I did know some people from the Green Bay staff. I met some coaches back when he was there, but we talked about players. I didn't really talk about him. So I don't know much about Mike. I mean, in terms of his archetype, if you want to, put him in a box, obviously he has an offensive background. He really enjoys offense, so he's going to be involved in that. I don't think people consider him a QB coach type of offensive coach. And to be honest, Andy Reid isn't either, but people try to act like he is. I do see Mike McCarthy as more like Andy Reid light. He's a East Coast guy. He I would say probably is more like a player's coach. And I don't know, man. I think from what I know, I think people enjoy Mike McCarthy as a coach. I don't think he's a tyrant or anything. I don't think he's super innovative. So I don't know. It's just an interesting name when they brought it up. It doesn't get me super excited, but I'm not going over the moon about any coach. And I've seen like people just saying they trying to. Why would the Bears go out of their way to mess with the Cowboys? That doesn't even make sense. So I don't think it's a stunt. I think I don't know. If the Cowboys were in the playoffs and lost first round and they went after Mike McCarthy, I would understand it more. Cause it's like, yo, I get it. He's doing what he can. But they were really bad this year. And the only thing that was really holding them up before was all the wins. And they didn't have wins this year. So absent of really knowing what his program is, I don't know, man. It's an interesting name. I wouldn't really waste my time just because it's this whole situation with the Cowboys. I'm not doing any type of trade. I'm not getting in the bidding war for Mike McCarthy. I'm just not. Like I said, Belichick's on here. I'm not sure why. This is just some random website I'm looking at anyway. Thomas Brown, we know he's going to get interviewed. I don't see any way he gets the job. Pete Carroll, he said he was interested. I don't know if the Bears are going to go that route. It would line up with the rest of these guys. As I said, and it's so funny actually that Pete Carroll has like this reputation as almost kind of a quarterback guy. He's a defensive coach. Nobody ever talks about that. So anyway, Pete Carroll, I know he said he was interested. Do the Bears want to go that old? I don't know. We'll see. Brian Flores from the Vikings. I don't know. I guess. Why? From the division, I mean, yeah, you want to hire away from the division. I get all that, but Brian Flores been out there. So, and I think that's what really strikes me with a lot of this list. Because I'm going to just skip ahead to Cliff Kingsbury, because I've been said this all year. Why? You didn't even pick him from OC last year. What changed that you're trying to hire him as a head coach when we already saw what he did as a head coach? A job he didn't deserve and promptly was terrible at. So I kind of feel slightly the same way about Brian Flores. It's like he's been out there. And that's where I get real jaded with this feeling of, oh, we're just going with the hot name. They got a hot unit, so they must be ready to be a head coach. When did anybody feel in the Cardinals' tenure that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't know offense? I don't know him. I don't know nothing about him. Besides, like, you know, the stuff on TV. But coaching wise, I don't know really much about his tree or any of that. But I've never heard anybody publicly talk about Cliff doesn't know ball. And so he wasn't a good head coach. And then he goes back to what he does and he was good at it. Why are you shocked about that? And to be honest, again, I think Anthony Lynn has a lot to do with that. I think whoever gets Cliff Kingsbury is going to be real rudely awakened about that run game. But it screams to me, you're just doing what's hot right now. Brian Flores been available, been a head coach. But, the Vikings defense had a good year. Oh, let's go get him. What? Aaron Glenn's on the list. I already talked about that. Same thing. Ben Johnson, we know what that is. Mike Kafka offensive coordinator for the Giants. And I'm pretty sure he was a quarterback that I watched come out of the draft. That name sounds very familiar. Why in the world would he be the head coach? Why are you talking to somebody from the Giants? If we're playing a who's hot, who's not game, I need to understand what's going on. Now, again, former quarterback, turned coach. I'm not sure. I would have to look, but I want to say this is his first OC gig. I don't remember him being an OC. And so I don't understand why people would think he's ready for a head coach job. Todd Monken from the Ravens, don't understand that one at all. And you want to talk about flip-flop? That's the Ravens, but I'm not going to get into that because not only last year, but this year, we should have ran more. We should have ran more. We should have ran more. Lamar, I should have been running more. The NFL or the NFL sports media, they should have been giving Derrick Henry the ball more. Derrick Henry, I should have got the ball more. Todd Monken's a genius. Wait, what? Come on, man. So no. Drew Petzing, after the Cardinals whooped up on us, they was like, oh, we like that. Let's talk to him. I ain't mad at it. I think that's hilarious because if y'all been listening, you know the Cardinals game was the one. That was the one. I was like, ooh, let me dive into this. This was some good stuff. And so I think that's hilarious. The Cardinals offense, I just finished the end of the year stats. The Cardinals offense actually very highly ranked in a lot of the stats that I cover. Sneaky good there. I don't know much about this coach. I do know that Gannon's philosophy and kind of what they instituted was a lot more of a power run game. And so maybe they might be interested in going back to that, but I don't really know him. David Shaw. Let me make sure it's the right person before I start talking. David Shaw. Yeah. Former Stanford. Yep. I remember. That's what I thought it was. I don't think he ever got a head coach job. No, he was at Stanford that long time. They produced a lot of good talent. There was a lot of attempts that, him becoming a head coach, never got it. And then lately he's been in more of an executive role. So that's interesting. Again, a lot of experience, college level, old school for sure. Arthur Smith for the Steelers blows my mind, and not just because of the Justin Fields thing, but it's definitely on my mind. Arthur Smith, who just got fired from the Falcons, who wasted so much offensive talent, and then went to the Steelers and had a very pedestrian offense. That's who y'all looking at. Mike Vrabel, we know how I felt. I don't want to hear all this Vrabel love because last year I told y'all. And then Anthony Weaver. Where was he at before? He's the D coordinator for the Dolphins. Why in the world are they interviewing Anthony Weaver? Okay, I know he was a player. Oh no, this is his first time being a coordinator. I thought he was I might be thinking of Anthony Lynn. That might be who I'm thinking of. Okay, so Anthony Weaver. Hold on. Is this right? Okay, so he was with the Ravens the last handful of years. If I'm saying this right. Oh no. It says he was D coordinator with the Texans in 2020. Huh. Was that the Lovie Smith year? I don't know. Obviously he didn't make it. Went to the Ravens, D-line coach, run game coordinator. Okay, that's interesting. and then assistant head coach of the Ravens and D-line coach. Then he became the D coordinator this year for the first time, and the Dolphins defense sucks. Remember, here we go again, flip-flopping. Remember Vic Fangio was terrible, and the players said he was horrible. The players said he didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, so Eagles defense or Dolphins defense? You tell me. Anyway, so Anthony Weaver is on the list. Look, man, I already know the talk is the Bears don't know what they're doing. It's too many cooks in the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that is unfair looking at this list, but I do think it's very clear that they are focusing on. Now, look, make no mistake. Some organizations use their interview list as a way to shape a narrative and perception. We know teams, well, we already know every team looks at coaches of color because they have to. But there's teams that do it knowing full well that they don't intend to hire that person. There's people who, like this, will build a certain profile knowing who they want. So you can say, we're hiring Ben Johnson. Hey, we brought in the majority of our list. If you look at it, were former head coaches. So they use that as a way to kind of take the heat off. So that could be the case, but just taking it at face value, very clearly prioritizing people with head coach experience, veteran head coach experience. And other than that, I think the biggest thing is run game. Like, if I think about it, because even the other thing with Ben Johnson is that everybody keeps labeling him as the next Sean McVay, the next Kevin O'Donnell, the next what's Buddy in the Panthers that I just talked, Canales. He's the next, number one passing offense. The Lions are based in the run. Do not forget that. Now, let's be fair. A lot of coordinators, you have to take the lead from the head coach. And once they get, once the harness comes off, we see they turn different. Shane Waldron. So, but from what we know, you go down this list, for the most part, Arthur Smith, as a head coach, as a coordinator, loves to run the ball. Vrabel loves to run the ball. Weaver apparently was a run game coordinator, so I think he likes to run the ball. Cardinals like to run the ball. David Shaw, Stanford, run the ball. Monken doesn't fall into that list, but he was with the Ravens and they know how to run the ball. Mike McCarthy does not fall into that list. Neither does Cliff Kingsbury. Kafka, I don't know what he does. Aaron Glenn, don't know. Brian Flores, defense, blitz, run the ball. Pete Carroll, run the ball, play action. And so Belichick, Belichick's more multiple. He ain't coming here anyway. So, but I do think that the themes you see here are an emphasis on the run game and emphasis on veteran coaches. So we'll see. We'll have to see where it goes from here. All right, that's it for me. Talk way too much. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Remember, stay up and bear down.